Yeah.
With stir shaking, there are so many different things that can go wrong in terms of both parsing and looking for specific things and maybe not being able to handle when they're not there. And also there's a lot of extra logic, right? So verification being done on certificates, getting the certificates from HTTP or wherever, caching it. There's so much that can go wrong.
Right, a lot of steps.
Which is lots of fun for us. I mean.
All right, gents, we're online. I think everything is rolling, so let's get to it. Let me put my little ad hoc presentation on. That's it. First of all, welcome everyone who is watching us on YouTube. We're doing our day 3 of OpenSIPIt'. So today we have pretty much the same people we had the past 2 days. And we're looking forward for quite an interesting day. Now, it's my slides. Okay, so we have the same people. So Liviu put a little bit of explanation of what's been going on yesterday. So, and maybe Liviu, if you can go quickly over it, and also if we can discuss what's been changing since yesterday.
So yesterday we all of us added a fictive certification authority to our trust chain, and each team received according certificates signed by this authority. And the objective was to make sure that the identity header generated by one team gets correctly parsed and validated by some other team, right? Because of course, our software works with itself to begin with, but we want to test whether it interops correctly with other software. And also the vice versa is valid, right? Whereas you first were the authentication service and were testing your identity with a verification, now you become the verifying service and the opposite team sends their identity header to you. And there are some gaps to be filled here. I think the free switch team only did the verification side yesterday. So we have a bit of, also with the asterisk team, we have a bit of catch up to do today. And as far as issues go, we had plenty of those yesterday, and we learned a lot from origination identity to calling number to the date header field and all issues that can be around it. I think that's it pretty much. So the objective for today is to wrap up any testing that was missed yesterday, as well as maybe, I think there will be plenty of time, maybe start working with Andrea's tests, or maybe, fill in the gaps with those.
Liviu, can you clear up a couple of things for me?
Sure.
On the extracting caller identity, is everyone using the SIP headers versus the originating telephone number for verification? Because we're using the originating telephone number in the...
Yes, but the specification also says that it should be the same as the one in the SIP headers. So if there is let's take it some concrete example. Let's say the invite also has a P asserted identity header, and there is also an orig claim in the passport. Those two numbers should be the same. If they are not, you should return an error from the start.
Okay.
Like bad identity header or something like that.
So I can understand the P asserted identity, but how about the from?
That is a fallback. So if you don't have a PAI, then you look into the from. So, but even that was tricky yesterday because I wasn't filling in the display name, for example. I was just using the from username. But then I found out that CP back-to-back QA actually uses the CLI and the display name. And it makes sense because, after all, that is what's displayed on the phone. So, yeah, I guess it's...
Typically, that's something just to be negotiated between providers, from my experience, right? So, you know, some company offers SIP trunking, for instance, and they tell you, I want to have the calling party number in the from display name in this and that format, right? So I think you can't put this in the standard, and we didn't define it up front, and this is where the confusion came up because I was also taking it from the display name and changing it to the user because other parties didn't populate it. So we also didn't check the format, right? So yeah, I think it's up for the individual cases where you define this.
Yeah, there is plenty of wiggle room in there, and it's not clearly defined.
Yeah, so in the US, the display name is basically tossed when you transition to the PSTN, because we do the lookup on the remote side with a dip into the into the central database. So that doesn't really carry anywhere. So we would probably just ignore the display name and use the PAI number and the from number as a fallback, but that's okay.
Just a quick question on that, George. This is just my personal interest, not particularly connected with the conversation, but are the CLECs in the US obliged to subscribe to the database to populate the names from the numbers?
They are not, as far as I know. They are not.
Right. I suspected that because when I've been in the States, I've seen some things like the city name pop up, and I think there's a CLEC that's not paying to subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. It could also be the subscriber who's not paying to get the names. So it's stupid the way we do it here. It's really stupid, but it's now like 30 years old and nobody's going to change it.
Well, it's a step up from most PSTNs that just don't, have a name thing full stop.
Well, yeah. Okay, so my other question was around the date header field. There was a lot of discussion going on around that, and I was only half paying attention to it. So what was the final kind of outcome of the date header field?
So there are two takeaways, I guess. First one is that it's mandatory. So stir shaken, it's easy to remember it like this. Not only adds one header, right, the identity, but it actually adds two headers. So it's the identity and the date, which become a must. And the second one is regarding the format. And there is actually just one single format. It's clearly defined in the RFC. Let me copy paste an example here on the Google Meet, I guess. Here is an example content.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So that's about it.
Okay, because I don't think we're actually sending the date header, Ben.
No, we don't send the date header.
Yeah, so that's something else we need to fix. Okay. That's it. Thank you, Liviu.
Sure.
All right, thanks, Liviu, for update. So I guess as far as it today goes, we're setting up those failure tests, right? So what is the plan for the teams to do?
As I see it, we should make sure that Asterisk and FreeSwitch get their share of testing, if they're ready, of course. And I would like to. By the way, Andreas's tests can be done offline as well. So you can just download the project. You can run them on the AWS machine, and maybe just consult with Andreas if you run into some issue or something. Or yeah, but there are pretty good instructions on the project to run them. So I guess we could do that today as well, if time permits.
Yeah, I was working on that today, and now you can automate it now. So it takes around a minute to run all of the 40 or something tests that I have for failed cases. So we can just do it. I mean, it will take longer, of course, because there's, the discussion then, why did it fail? Was it like a response code that's, different than what we expect? But in the end, it's pretty easy to set it up now. So if you want to run this test, I'm only running at the moment verification tests against targets, right? So if you want to verify whether you correctly verify your identity, then I would be the right person to talk to on Slack.
Okay.
Andreas, would you be okay with the Asterisk team maybe incorporating those tests into our test suite?
Absolutely. The only thing is that as it is on a README on GitHub, I can send, I'll paste the link once again, is that I didn't send the patch upstream yet. So the project has a binary with everything built in. And it has some quirks that it needs to be at the correct path on your system. So over the next days, I'm going to streamline it a bit, ease off the rough edges. But in the end, you can obviously integrate that into Asterisk, of course. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to send
I can help you with that. Just ping me then. Yeah.
Are you going to send the patches up to Walter to include?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Just to help with that, I created another channel, SIP-Front Stir Shaken. So I guess if any team finds itself without much to do, they might try to poke Andreas and run some tests with him in addition to what Liviu is doing with everyone else. Does it sound okay?
Perfect.
Yep.
Cool. All right, and then after we're done with the Stir Shaken, we also wanted to have some kind of security scan by enable security. So Sandro and our Alfred, do you guys want to tell a little bit what do you have for us?
I think they might have a quick presentation, Max.
Oh yeah, that would be excellent.
Yeah. I prepared this in kind of 20 minutes ago, so let's see how it goes. Share. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So, we will just talk about what we want to test, what we have in mind, and what we need from the different teams, which is not much. So let's start with what. The first thing that we want to test is Stir Shaken, of course, which is very relevant here. We want to do some manual tests while everyone is doing their still testing in the first phase of this session, their implementation. So we will do some tests manually, like specify specific URLs for the X5 view and the info in the identity header and so on.
Just quick question, Sandra. Do you need teams to be in VS or AS position for this?
They should act as UAS. So
so verification.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still getting confused with this.
So essentially, sorry, Sandra, just to clarify to everyone. So essentially, if you set up your project as VS to test something with other teams. Also give Sandro a buzz to test his stuff against it. Yeah, go ahead, Sandro.
Okay. So, and then once we, everyone is kind of okay, we can do a bit of fuzzing. We have prepared our fuzzer specifically for stir shaken, so we have created a new fuzzer for this. And finally, flooding. We didn't really prepare the flooder as a special floodder for this, but I'll talk about this. So let's start with the fuzzing. What we plan to do is we will use our tool set, of course, SIPVicious Pro. Internally, we're using Radamsa, okay, as the mutator. But SIPVicious Pro is the one sending and handling SIP. So it's got its SIP stack, its custom SIP stack, and sending SIP messages which are malformed. Now, in this particular case, we will be targeting the following. So we will be targeting the identity header as is, like mutating it and sending it. And that will create identities, values that are probably not going to be valid, right? And they're going to have a bad signature, probably, a lot of them. Then the next part is to fuzz the different parts of the JWT header, payload, and signature. And the first two, they will create valid identities with valid signatures, because we have our own key, which should be trusted by you. So this will actually test the new code. It will delve deeper, and we will also fuzz signatures just in case there's something really, stupid which causes any crashes or something like that. And we can also do a bit of generic fuzzing later on. Now, anyone has any questions on fuzzing? I guess not. So yeah, we will do this with each team, with each implementation, and hopefully we have some interesting results. Now, in terms of flooding, what we will do is we will use our denial of service floodder, and instead of sending normal SIP messages, we will send invite messages with the identity header and see if there's any changes, any differences. There might be problems, introduced due to the validation process, which might slow things down, and so on. So you might want to identify these things. For now, it's going to be a static identity. It will probably get expired. We will be implementing this a bit later because, we were working on the fuzzer mainly. But it might still find interesting things, so we'll see. And of course, a lot more can be done. So there's so many tests that we could create in the future for trying to spoof the identity. Grammar mistake here. There's many tests that one could do, injecting special characters and so on, and see if the identity, if the number is validated anyway, even though it shouldn't, and so on. But this involves a lot more work. And malformed certificates, of course, or valid certificates being served on an HTTP website with interesting extensions. There's so much more that can be done, right? So, like I said before, in terms of attack surface, stir shaken does increase the attack surface quite significantly, even though it's a security solution in many ways. Now, next, we like to do a bit of fuzzing for the RFC 876. It's not as complicated as the previous thing. It's more about fuzzing the authorization header and, mutating across different. Since it's new code, this SHA-256 some of it is new code. There might be new problems introduced, so that's our aim here, to find problems in the new code. But yeah, the targets should, of course, be responding with allowing us with challenges for SHA-256 and 256.512. And we will also do flooding, just in case there's any changes, any differences from the MD5 to the new
just a quick question on this, Sandro. So you only have, again, for the same principle applies, right? You only have UAC to do this.
Yeah, we're only doing that.
Yeah, but in general, it also probably beneficial if you guys also at least consider for the next OpenSIPIt also have some kind of UAS, malicious UAS that would fuzz the challenge somehow.
We have other tools that act as a UAS, in fact. So this is something that it's just easier to work as a UAC, and because otherwise it requires automation on the other side as well. So,
Yeah, but what I'm saying, there could be bugs on either side of those.
Definitely, and that's why we will be implementing that. Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, you can have if let's say in scenario when I have some customer who's using OpenSIPs, just as an example, and sending me traffic, if I kind of somehow can inject some stuff into into authorization challenge and get that OpenSIPs to do whatever. So that is not. It's not very good. Okay, because usually in practice you can differentiate of you can pretty much tell very easily either from the user agent or from other specifics of the message which your UAC has generated it. So technically, there's some
up to even the major release or minor or patch sometimes.
There are a lot of fingerprinting. But anyway, thanks for clarification. Go ahead, Sandro.
Yeah, sounds good. No, it makes total sense. Thanks for the tip. We will definitely be looking into that. So this is the part which involves the different teams. What do we need from you? Well, not much. Just have your UAS targets ready with stir shaken, which I know you do actually, because we've been testing as well today. And valid SIP extensions to call. And in terms of RFC 8760, we need to have implementations that are responding with the different challenges, with the different hashes, and allowing us to test that. So that's basically what we need. Something that came to mind while we were discussing this, Alfred and I, is that we just started licensing SIPVicious Pro commercially, but something we've been discussing is we quite like the open source projects here and the community, and it might make sense for us to make SIPVicious Pro available freely, but not publicly, to the open source projects. Something we can discuss afterwards if anyone is interested from these different projects.
And Sandro, do you mean for testing, or do you mean as like an inherent part of other people's projects so that they can react appropriately to the bad guys?
For testing. So for testing, the software itself. So let's say the Asterisk or Free Switch project, they want to automate some of their tests, security testing. Okay, then it might be useful to have internally. But this is only for open source projects. Okay, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And if you want to get in touch. So yeah, that's basically it. I'll stop presenting and give you back the mic.
Well, first let's ask if anyone has any questions for Sandro about the security testing. Okay, I guess well, cool, and we're about to go out of time for this session, so well, good to wrap up then. If unless anyone has any questions or. Okay, great. Great stuff. Go back to the Slack channel then. See you guys in on the internet in a little while.
See you all later.
See ya.
See you later.
Later.
Bye bye.
See you guys.